29 countries signed a treaty in Shanghai last Thursday. The United States was not one of them. Neither was any European Union member state. The United Nations Secretary General was in the room. Most of the coverage since has framed this as China building an AI governance bloc while the West has none. That framing is wrong, and the reason it is wrong tells you more about the next 6 months than the treaty does. Here is what actually happened at the World AI Conference in Shanghai, which ran July 17th through the 20th. On July 16th, 29 countries signed the founding agreement of the World AI Cooperation Organization. Kazakhstan, Laos, Pakistan, Russia, Indonesia, Brazil, and a set of members across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. It will be an intergovernmental body headquartered in Shanghai. Xinhua and the Chinese government both published the member list. Then the scale of the thing. Over 1,100 companies, 4,486 products on an exhibition floor that passed 100,000 square meters for the first time. 351 global debuts. Purchasing delegations signed intent worth about $3 billion, up roughly 25% year on year. The releases landed in the same week. Moonshot shipped Kimi K3 at 2.8 trillion parameters. Alibaba previewed Qwen 3.8 Max. Huawei showed the Atlas 950 SuperPod in physical form for the first time. 16 cabinets running 1024 Ascend processors as a single system, built with a bonding approach aimed squarely at working around chip sanctions. Across the floor, 108 chips and 261 large models were unveiled. Minimax showed its M3 multimodal model. StepFun showed an agent operating system. Agibot put out 4 new robots, and one exhibit had 6 robots working together for 15 hours straight, assembling a model of the Great Wall from 80,000 blocks, each one redeciding its own role as the build progressed. And quietly, in the governance track, the Global AI Capacity Development Network went operational. Launched in Geneva on July 5th, it now links partners across 19 countries and international organizations. That is the conference. Now, here's what it means. The framing you are seeing, China has 29 members, the West has none, is not accurate. Washington launched Pax Silica in December 2025, run out of the State Department by Undersecretary for Economic Affairs Jacob Hellberg. 24 countries have now signed its declaration. At a second summit in June, close to 36 economies signed a separate joint statement on AI regulation alongside it. So this is not one bloc against nobody, it is 29 against 24. And the two are not playing the same game. Pax Silica is about supply chain security, making sure allied countries have access to trusted AI hardware and infrastructure. It is a bet that control lives in the silicon, that whoever controls advanced chips controls what everyone else can build. The World AI Cooperation Organization is about standards and governance, rules, principles, capacity building. Xi Jinping's announcements alongside it were training programs for developing countries, cooperation centers with ASEAN, the African Union, the Arab League, and BRICS, and an AI weather warning system extended to 30 countries. It is a bet that control lives in the rulebook, that whoever writes the standard shapes what compliance means for a decade. 2 blocks, 2 theories of where leverage actually sits. Both sides have a critique of the other, and both are worth stating plainly. American officials point to China's domestic censorship and state control and question whether its governance principles will protect privacy, free expression, and independent scrutiny. Beijing frames export controls as national security overreach that holds back global AI development, then offers an alternative architecture to countries on the wrong side of those controls. You do not have to resolve that argument to see the practical problem it creates, because the memberships do not line up, and the most interesting names are the ones on both lists. Kazakhstan signed the World AI Cooperation Organization founding agreement in Shanghai this month. Kazakhstan also signed the Pax Silica Declaration in June. India joined Pax Silica in February. So did the European Union. Almost nobody is picking a side cleanly. They are hedging, and the hedging is the actual story, because a country that signs both has just agreed to 2 sets of principles that were written without reference to each other. Your organization does not get to sit it out either. If you sell into a WAICO member state, a Pax Silica signatory, and Europe, you are already operating under 3 regimes drafted independently of one another. In April 2018, I wrote about GDPR under the heading, "The One Regulation to Rule Them All." It was not. What the world actually got was a patchwork, and the organizations that paid for the patchwork were the multinationals that had to comply with all of it at once. Same shape here. Two standards regimes, overlapping membership, no reconciliation mechanism. Now, the part of WAIC that got the least Western coverage and will matter most over the next 6 months. One phrase kept recurring across the booths and the keynotes. The token factory. Chinese vendors at this conference were not competing on frontier benchmark scores, they were competing on cost per token. Optoelectronic chips demonstrated cost per token reductions of 50% or more. PPIO launched an agent cloud routing workloads through a model gateway, claiming token cost reductions of 60 to 80%. Baidu, Chingcheng, and others all shipped variations on the same idea. Jensen Huang has described this as token factory economics, tokens per watt, cost per token, AI infrastructure as a power-constrained system where efficiency decides the winner. Here is why that matters to you and not just to them. For 3 years, the procurement question has been which model is best. Every vendor conversation, every pilot, every board slide has been organized around capability ranking. The token factory thesis says that question is about to stop being the interesting one. When a capable model costs a fifth of what it cost last year, capability stops being the constraint and volume economics take over. The question becomes what this costs at scale and whose stack it runs on. I have spent 25 years in cybersecurity, and this is the moment I recognize most clearly. It is the commoditization turn. It happened to firewalls, it happened to endpoint, it happened to cloud storage. The capability everyone was fighting over becomes assumed, and the fight moves to cost, integration, and who you are locked into. The organizations that got hurt were the ones still running a capability bake-off after the market had already moved to economics. AI is arriving at that turn now, faster than any of those did. Here's what that looks like in practice over the next 6 months. The pilot you scoped last year against one frontier model gets rescoped against 3 because the price difference is now large enough to show up in the operating budget rather than the innovation budget. Procurement starts asking about token economics and exit costs instead of benchmark tables, and the vendor conversation shifts from what the model can do to what happens to your unit costs when the contract renews. None of that requires anyone to win the governance argument. It happens on the cost curve alone. So what should you expect next? 4 dates, 2 of them firm. July 27th, this Monday, Moonshot ships the Kimi K3 weights under a modified MIT license. That is the first real test of whether an open frontier class model actually gets picked up at scale. August 2nd, the European Commission's enforcement powers over general purpose AI models come into force, with fines up to 3% of global annual turnover. Europe's answer to both blocs is to regulate whoever sells into Europe, regardless of which agreement they signed. Undated but signaled, the US Commerce Department has confirmed further action on chips and AI is coming. And Alibaba's promised open weights for Qwen 3.8 Max still have no date attached. 3 questions to take into your next operating review. 1. If model capability stops being the differentiator in 12 months, what is our AI strategy actually built on? 2. Which of our vendors sits inside which block? And what happens to our roadmap if that changes? 3. Can we produce documentation for every model in production before August 2nd? The verdict on WAIC 2026 is not that China won something. It is that the industry stopped pretending there would be one set of rules. 2 blocks, 2 theories of leverage, and a cost curve falling fast enough to make the capability argument stale. The organizations that build for one regime are going to spend the next 2 years discovering they operate in 2. I wrote about how boards should be thinking about this on frederiklindstrom.info, link in the description. If you are setting AI strategy right now, the question to bring into your next planning session is not which model wins, it is which rulebook you are building against and what it costs you to be wrong. See you next week. Thank you for watching.